Good afternoon. I apologize. I did not get this posted last week. Had some issues trying to get everything to record. We're trying it now with my laptop, see if that will work better. Currently on the screen, you should see me down in the lower part, but you'll also see the Canvas page for 1301. Start Here module, I just closed those up. But when you click here for the Start Here module, hopefully you've gone through all these details, looking at the syllabus, the course information, other information regarding 1301, which I've just clicked on, and as it calls up, again, apologize for the short aspect here. This basically focuses upon our outcomes, what we expect you to demonstrate by the time, as it says, mastery of, by the time we come to the end of the course. You'll also see some of the policies that are part of the situation there. So for our course, including the lay work policy, which hopefully we won't have that issue. But you'll see that there are assignment instructions and details, including how to find feedback on essays. Once we have an essay posted, which we still have a few weeks before that first one is to be turned in, you're going to find my comments through Turn It In, and this is the explanation of how to do so. You'll go to Grades. You'll see that over here to the left. Click on that. You'll then have your assignments come up. You'll click on the title of the assignment. In this case, it'll be first essay. That will go to the screen showing a percentage button, which will have characters in white. Click on that percentage button, and a screen will appear. You'll click OK about the regionality report, and then your essay will appear. You'll see some blue bubbles off to the right, and you can click on those, and the comments will show up. You'll also be able to see the rubric scoring technique that is used, and some other aspects. You'll be able to see the comments I've typed in. So this is how you'll find your comments. When you get ready to submit an essay or any other work that you're asked to do, you're going to go through the actual assignment. Do not try to go through grades. That is not how you do so. Rather, you're going to go through the assignment. For instance, under the first essay assignment, when you click on it, you'll see that one. It'll make an appearance. This is the actual details here. Takes a while for all this to upload. Bear with the slowness of it. You'll see this bar here that says Load First Essay Assignment in a new window. Right now it's about to load the actual essay assignment. But if you click on this bar, that will take you to Turn It In, and from there you will then upload the essay by following the instructions there. So please make sure that's how you upload your assignments. Do not try to go through SpeedGrader. That's not how we're going to upload those. So we're going to close that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the writing process. Well, we're now in this week. We're going to be talking a little bit about what takes place and what writing is found. Hopefully you've been able to go through and start looking at some of these as well. There's a video about the writing process. That is a very useful video. It doesn't take long for you to watch. The individual there is, he applies the process to his blog that he presents. But the details he offers can, as he tells you, be applied to writing essays. It's fairly entertaining, uses quite a bit of visuals. So I think you might find that interesting. I also have for you here a PowerPoint. And we're going to be looking at that one to just go over. I'm not going to go over the entire PowerPoint. It is fairly extensive, but I'm going to show you this one. And we're trying to get this to call up. Eventually it will. It just takes a little while for all the slides to call up within Canvas here. Again, just a little slow in trying to get this to show up. We're getting it connected now. Again, this is a PowerPoint that I put together to help you understand some of the details, go into what writing involves. It does take a little while for this to upload. You'll see it's trying to download down here. So hopefully this will show up, although I'm using the connection at school. And hopefully it's supposed to do so a little more quickly. It does take a little bit of time. PowerPoint I've downloaded it. It's supposed to open here very shortly. It's supposed to open within Canvas, but that can take a little while. So you may want to just download the actual PowerPoint as I've done over here, and then have it open. Again, it's taking just a little bit of time to do so. Here it comes. Again, bear with me, a little bit of silence here as we're waiting for this PowerPoint to finish loading. The internet connection here in the office is a little slow at times, so it does take a little while for this to all get taken care of. We're going to be talking about writing, and what writing actually involves, and the details that you're expected to utilize as you're preparing to work on different assignments. One of the major aspects, of course, is called the idea of the course being focused upon the composition aspect. It's called composition and rhetoric. So we're going to talk a little bit about that aspect of the course and why composition is something that we need to utilize not only for English classes but for your other courses. And within this PowerPoint, again, it's taking a while for this to download. Part of it is the connection I have here, but it's gradually getting there. When you're working on writing an essay, there are different techniques that we use for different courses. But what we have to focus upon for our class, for English 1301, is the need to try to express ideas in a reasonable manner, to present ideas as fully as possible, supported with details, and the main point, the thesis, being well explained throughout the entire essay, maintaining it as a focus. We're going to talk a little bit more about the writing process and how that is to be conveyed. Again, apologize for the length that it's taking to get this downloaded. It does take a little while at times to process this. Just a little slow at times for the connection here. When you're at home, hopefully you're able to download maybe a little more quickly than it's doing so here. But we want to make sure we get this all taken care of. And here it comes, we hope. Yes, there it is. Part of the reason it takes a little while, there's quite a bit of graphics, so when it downloads it does take a while to get this across. So it just takes some effort to get this all handled. So here we go. Again, it takes a little while to do this. Here we go. And we're going to start from the current slide. I've entitled this PowerPoint Essay Writing Basics for the College English Student, and this is really what it covers. It covers what you need to do if you're going to write a competent college essay. It doesn't mean outstanding essay. It doesn't mean par excellence, the idea about being extreme in proficiency. But what you need to do if you're going to be a competent writer, the details you have to follow. Whenever you're looking at a dictionary and they define writing for you, they will call it the activity or skill of marking coherent words on paper. That's the Oxford Dictionary. Or something written as letters or characters that serve as visible signs, Merriam-Webster. Neither one of these really accomplishes what we need for our definition of writing, what you are expected to do for this course. Rather, a definition of writing is going to involve something that is much more extensive. For instance, this is a definition. That writing may be defined as a form of communication. This is a definition of communication from Merriam-Webster, which is the transference of information from one party to another, the imparting or interchange of thoughts, opinions, or information. That's what communication is, and writing is simply one form. Communication takes a number of different status, a number of different forms, but writing is one, and it is through the means of a codified symbol system. This system consists of signs that have meanings already given to them. They're ascribed meanings, and the signs correspond to a learnable, transferable language system. We have to be able to take that language system, that symbol system, the signs, and be able to teach other people how to understand those. Hence, learnable and transferable. It follows the rules of a grammar, which means there are going to be very specific usage of these signs, these symbols, that encode the use and meanings of the symbols, which are then recorded on a surface in a graphic form in order to achieve a purpose. And that purpose takes a number of different shapes. informing, expressing, entertaining, persuading, or arguing an idea. I had to phrase the record on the surface because the previous definition had talked about on paper. Well, sorry, we don't have paper here. We have a screen. So this would not qualify as writing according to that particular dictionary. What we have, though, is that we have to know the rules of the grammar. We have to understand what we're trying to express in what manner. We have to understand how we put those symbols together. We have to understand that the symbols are not just letters, which is very simple for us to recognize, but we also have other rules of a grammar that shows different kinds of symbols, such as how to use question marks, how to use other punctuation marks, when to use those. All that comes as part of a system that we have to be able to learn, where there are a set of rules, and that's what the grammar is. Rules that say this is what you may use, this is how you can use those. So all this means eventually, very simply, writing is hard. We start you off, as it shows here in this image, with a blank sheet of paper. Other subjects will give you something to work with. We tell you, write an essay, here's a blank screen, here's a blank sheet of paper, fill it up. That makes writing a little more challenging, a little more difficult to do. So here's the challenges to it. Starting the essay, trying to figure out what the expectations are, trying to understand what you need to accomplish within it, and it sometimes makes you feel as if you're pulling your hair out. There's an overwhelming nature to it. As this shows you, there's a number of different words, a number of different ideas coming to you, assignments and arguments and academic essays and writing and discussing, and the idea about different subjects and working with everything and what you have to include. All that is creating, as it says here, a jumble, so you can feel overwhelmed. Part of this class is going to help you deal with that nature, what you're expected to do, and how you can deal with it. Students often feel this is from Calvin and Hobbes, so you may not be familiar with that particular comic strip, but it's always been one that I've enjoyed. And so he says, there's rules, how to do it, grades, how can you be creative if someone's breathing down your neck? Well, we're going to have rules. We're going to have deadlines. We're going to have reasons why you write what you need to write. And yes, it may feel as if someone's breathing down your neck, but the idea is you're going to be able to accomplish something. Writing is not trying to stifle creativity. It's not some mystical ritual. Rather, it is a process. And that's what we're about to look at here, what the process involves. There are different steps. Pre-writing, drafting, revising, and what is called editing or proofreading. It is recursive, which means that these steps repeat throughout the process. While you're revising, as I have written here, you may also return to the pre-writing step. So you're not always doing it just in a very straightforward manner, where when you finish pre-writing, you move to drafting. When you finish drafting, you're in revising. Finish revising, you're into editing. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes when you're revising, you get a new idea. So you go back to pre-writing, where you explore that idea and you incorporate it into the draft, and then you go back and revise further. It is a recursive process. This image, I want to go back to this one. This image shows you that while you're doing drafting, you may get new ideas. Or as you're drafting, you may actually start revising at that time. Or you may recognize, oh, I misspelled this word, and you want to change it. Well, that's editing. So they happen at the same time on occasion. Pre-writing is a part of the stage that we sometimes do not do well. You're told to write an essay, and that's what you want to do. You want to start writing. You want to start having sentences and paragraphs and the overall structure of an essay. As such, what we wind up doing, we ignore one of the major steps, which is pre-writing. Pre-writing starts as soon as you're given a topic. As soon as you start thinking about what you're going to write, you're engaged in pre-writing. So thinking about it, taking your notes, trying to brainstorm, outline, gather information, reading, reviewing, researching. All that is part of generating ideas, and that is the pre-writing process. As it says here, it's a little bit of a misnomer. How can something be part of the writing process if it's pre-writing? Because pre-writing comes before writing, so how can that be part of writing? But it really is. And we sometimes overlook this step. We want to get right into producing the essay, and we do not recognize we need to be prepared before we can do so. To understand how you can be prepared, you're either going to choose a topic or you're going to be given the topic. In our case, I'm going to give you sort of a general view of what you need to write about, And then you're going to be asked to gather your ideas, taking that topic and trying to narrow it, figuring out what you're going to do with it, and then organizing those ideas, how you're going to deal with that, and present those ideas in a systematic manner. Professor John Trimble, who taught at the University of Texas, has a wonderful book called Writing with Style, offers this comment saying that people have individualized ways of getting their thoughts down. And we do. Not everybody approaches writing in the same way. In his particular book, though, chapter called Getting Launched, which is what he calls pre-writing, he makes several points, certain basic ideas that you need to keep in mind. One of those is to choose a subject that means something to you. You will write better if you care about what you're writing. Too often, we are given topics, or we try to approach the subject and try to figure out what we're going to say, so the professor, the teacher, the person who's going to read it will be the one that we're worried more about. We don't worry about what we're trying to say. We're not caring about it. We're just trying to figure out what that person might want. And that's not going to work nearly as well, because if it means something to you, you'll write better. You want to limit it. He calls it delimit it, so it's manageable. You want to narrow the topic to something that you can write. Too often we try to approach something in a very generic way, or the general comment, and we won't have anything to say. We will not have any ideas really that are going to express it fully, or we try to cover too much. You're going to write about 800 to 1,000 words probably for each essay. That may sound long, but it really isn't. You want to make sure that you have limited what your approach is. Keep the focus throughout. You want to have data. You need to have information. You're trying to present details, and that's what you want to make sure you do. Be as specific as possible. Ask questions, and that's the next part. Ask questions and try to find answers to those questions so that you're able to, as it says here, sketch out your claims. This goes back some time ago when he wrote this book, so note cards are part of it. I have added this little part to it about the outliner, your word processor, taking notes in whatever form you can. And then choose the idea that's going to be your organizing principle, your thesis. You're not ready to start writing an essay until you already know what your main point is going to be. And that's a major part of pre-writing, is arriving at that provisional organizing principle, that arriving at that thesis. Until you have it in place, you're not ready to write an essay, because the thesis is going to dictate what points you're going to bring up and how you're going to present those. From the Purdue OWL, and you can go to that, just go to Google and type in Purdue OWL, which means Online Writing Lab. They have all sorts of information and details, and this is just one of their handouts where they show points that you want to do as you are pre-writing. And that takes us into drafting. That's the second stage. This is what we actually think of as writing the essay. And as I comment here too often, we think that we're writing when we place pen to paper, handle keyboard. We don't think about what we did in the pre-writing stage, or we don't do the pre-writing stage at all. That's usually going to result in a frustrating process, frustrating experience. Dr. Trimble goes on and offers this advice. Ideas that look good initially have the unhappy habit of looking irrelevant or incomplete from hindsight. When you're writing your initial draft, start the same way, he says. Never let yourself pause. Instead, don't censor your thought. Instead, try to go through and write. The novice writer, which is what he calls anyone who is starting with writing, is too often too self-oriented, thinking only of himself and writing for himself, and that success, he says, of communication, which writing is that form of communication. He says that depends solely on how the reader receives it. So that's the problem with bad writing, is that writers think of themselves, not of who's going to be receiving it. And we're trying to communicate. And this is the communication triangle that Dr. James Canavy offered and expressed, where you have an encoder, the one writing, the decoder, the one who is trying to interpret or understand, the one to whom the message is sent, the signal, which is the actual product, in this case would be the essay, and then the reality, as he calls it, the third point here, is the reference discourse, what we're trying to express and how we're choosing to express it. This is the actual details that we go through. And so with the communication triangle, what we do, we have different kinds of discourse. Referential, where the subject is what we look at. We have idea of persuasive or rhetorical discourse, where you're trying to gain something from the one who receives. Expressive, where you're trying to convey your feelings and emotions. And literary, calling attention to itself. Sometimes we incorporate all of these into one. Sometimes we only take one or two into a particular form of discourse. So we blend these forms at times. Pre-writing allows you to gather your thoughts, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're going to do so, why you're writing, to whom you're writing. Drafting then takes this and allows you to get your ideas into an organized system, a manner that will which will accomplish then the goals. So as you draft, the initial draft, I do not talk about rough drafts, but initial drafts, the minute details should not be something you worry about. Don't worry about word count. I know I said earlier 800 to 1,000 or so words. Don't worry about that. See what you need to say, see what you need to express, get that across. Don't always worry about grammar. Don't try to go off on your topics, but eventually you're going to go through, anticipate that you will go through multiple drafts, not just one. It's one with the drafting process, as the writing process that says recursive. You're going to go back and revise. Try to find yourself a time. Make writing part of your day. So as you get ready to work on an assignment, don't think you're going to have one day to do it. You need to plan several days in a row. My estimation for trying to produce an essay, as I always like to tell students, you need to anticipate that you're going to spend about 20 hours working on a particular essay. And that's not 20 hours straight, but it's an hour or two here, thinking about it, trying to research, read about your topic, try to take your notes, working from there, trying to take those notes, organize them into a draft, putting the draft down, coming back to it later, revising that draft, working through the process. When you look at your overall time, you're probably looking at 20 hours or more really to accomplish a good essay. As F. Scott Fitzgerald says, you don't write because you want to say something, you write because you have to say something. You have something to say. And that's the biggest challenge for a writer. What is it that you really have to say? When you're choosing your topic, what is it that you know you have to say about that subject? So we come through here and we talk about competent, sophisticated writing. And this is a few notes of what a competent essay will do. This can get you through the course. It can get you a passing grade. But if you want to improve upon that, there are other areas and details that you need to pay attention to. So you can read through that slide. Same thing with Anne Handley, her comment about good writing and what good writing involves. It's not simply something that automatically happens. And again, you can read this detail here. And quoting Sinclair Lewis, the novelist, his comment is that writing is just work. And that's one of the biggest aspects. You're not going to become a better writer unless you work at it. It is practice and hard work. As I said earlier in the slide presentation, writing is hard. Some people are more able, they're more talented at it, but it doesn't mean that everyone cannot learn to be better writers if you're willing to work. And that's my goal for the course. I want you to be better writers at the end of this semester than you currently are. I want you to have improved your writing. I don't know how far that's going to take you, what grades that's going to get you. I really don't worry about your grades. I want you to improve as a writer. The next concept is about revision. Too often with revision, all we think about is hit that ABC button in Word, and that'll take care of all of it. But as this comment is, this revision stage is where good writers will separate himself or herself from a less experienced writer. A good writer understands the importance of revision, will spend time at it. It's not something that's challenging or difficult. It just takes a while. Sometimes the stress returns. We feel we've already done what we needed to do. Why do I have to go back and look at it again? But that's what you have to do, and that's what the word revision really means. This means to look at, to see, and re means to see again. It's the act of seeing it again. To look at it from a critical standpoint and making decisions about what you can keep, what you need to get changed, what needs to happen. You do not want to do that immediately. Leave the essay alone for a little while, then come back to it. You want to make sure you have a fresh mind, fresh eyes. As it says here, it literally means to see again. It's a process of discovery as you go through it. You don't always have your best stuff when you first get started. You have to decide, is it really worth saying? Is it saying what you want? And will the reader understand it? And you have this little comic here where she's looking at, okay, Ryan, maybe it doesn't contribute, and she eventually has to make a decision about taking out. Too often we don't want to do that. We don't want to take something out because we worry about word count. But we also need to recognize we need to make sure that every comment in the essay is contributing in a strong manner. And if it's not contributing, if it's just filling in space, we need to make sure that we clear that out. Again, are the issues, is it appropriate? Is it too big, too narrow? Which way have you approached the topic? Have you stayed on track? Are there extraneous parts to it? Are there details that don't contribute to your point? Is it really a solid thesis? Are you still agreeing with it? Does it need to be changed any? Does it make a sophisticated, provocative point? Each essay should be unique. That means what you have written should not be something that someone else will have done. If it's a generic commentary, if it's something that anybody else could say on the topic, then where is your input? What is it that you have done? You need to make sure that you are contributing to it. So you want to make sure your thesis is not generalizing, but instead it is taking a specific position. And think about your purpose. Is that accomplishing what you need? These are bulleted points that I've taken from the Writing Center, North Carolina. And so, again, this is just something that you need to consider. Again, from North Carolina, these are some details you can look at where you can go through and check, are your parts of your essay out of proportion? Do you spend too much time here, not enough time on something else that should be considered? Have you kept your promise? Do you follow through what your thesis promises? Have you supported all your claims? Have you supported the points you're trying to raise? Are you following a pattern? Does everything flow? Is there a sense of every idea moving from one topic to the next in an easy, fluid manner? Do you have everything accurate? Are you satisfying everything that the reader needs to know? Have you cited your information? When you use information from sources, have you cited that information appropriately according to MLA standards? And have you tied everything together with your conclusion? And so, in revision, it doesn't always mean that you rewrite the whole paper. It doesn't mean that you always have to get rid of something, but occasionally it does. Sometimes it does mean adding or deleting material for balance or emphasis. And then sometimes, sadly, you look at it and you realize this draft isn't going to work and you need to start all over. Again, you can see here the disgruntled attitude of this individual in the cartoon where you have drafts, and the fifth draft is here, but here's the sixth draft. And clearly we have draft after draft coming along. So you want to make sure you follow through with it. And here's a sample checklist, this is a poster that I found online. I thought it was nice. It has some good points, but I also think it's really interesting because it's either from Canada or from some other British area because they spell color with a U. But also, I don't know if they did this deliberately or if it's just a fun point. Do I repeat common words and phrases? I can't change this one, but of course you can see here, whoops. You can see here they actually do repeat common words. So I don't know if they were trying to be humorous at this time or what, but they do have some good points that you want to make sure that you can look at. The next one is about editing. This is where you correct problems with grammar, style, word choice, usage, punctuation. This is where you reread it, you try to look at it, make sure everything is working, and that you have accomplished what you need to do. Have you made accurate claims? Are they consistent? Have you supported those? Does your overall structure work? And so, have you made sure you have citations appropriate? Have you made sure that everything is clear so that you have all the ideas coming across? Is the meaning of each sentence clear? And is it clear about what each pronoun refers? Have you chosen the appropriate words? Is your diction, which is the word choice, appropriate? Have you used the proper style, formal tone? Have you accomplished what you needed to accomplish? Are you varying the sentences in both length and structure? Are you avoiding passive voice, not necessarily completely, but not relying on it totally? Are you filling your writing with unnecessary phrases that could be eliminated? Are you making sure you have strong, vital sentences and phrasing? So as you go through editing, you will make sure that you check for misspellings, mistakes, and grammar and punctuation. Make sure you go through it completely. The computer spell check program will recognize some, but it will not recognize all. You need to make sure that you understand that. So here's some details where you look at editing. Again, how to go about through a paper. One says reading it backwards, where you look from the last sentence to the first sentence, so that you don't get caught up with what you're doing. If you check for grammar that way, it'll let you be less distracted from the content, where you're just checking the sentences rather than checking the other aspects. And again, reading it aloud can work. Getting others involved, you can have somebody else proofread your essay. Now, they should not be telling you what you need to include in the sense of details, because that leads us to collusion. But you can have somebody else proofread it, see if there's something you can check for spelling. And then there's some more tips for you to look at. And I have some final comments about writing. Some of these are just help you understand. Students cannot be expected to master such complex process if they only practice them 2 or 3 times in a school term. And you're not going to be a better writer if you only do it 1 or 2 or 3 times. We're going to try to have 4 or 5 essays, and you're going to go through those essays. We're going to work on activities and exercises so that you get used to the writing process. This particular comment says that the best we can do is to help students develop repertoire strategies, and that's what we're trying to work on, giving you some strategies how to approach topics. This is Faulkner's comment, where he talks about the most important thing he used to think was talent, but then he realizes the most important thing is insight, the curiosity to wonder, to mull, to muse. That you need to try to recognize that you have to work at it, that you have to have patience, as he says there. And then C.S. Lewis, in Letters to Children, offers this comment. Don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very. Otherwise, you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. Trying to make sure that you approach it in such a way that you are more concrete and more detailed, that you are trying to approach this in a way that will communicate. Because writing is communication. That's what we want to focus on. And Amy Joy sort of sums this all up. Anyone who says writing is easy isn't doing it right. And that's really what we look at when we talk about the writing process. I'll go back now to, it's still trying to call it up there. But hopefully this PowerPoint will help you understand what you're expected to do as you're working. We're going to be talking about topics later. I have not given you the topics yet, but we're going to be looking at that. What I do have available for you are some grammar handbooks. In case you're not familiar with grammar, you want to know about this. This is Capella University, and they have a handbook. And if you will click on this link, it will take you to, it's supposed to take you to, yeah, here it comes, their website, and they have a grammar handbook, and it's PDF, so you can download it and actually save it to your computer. And you can look at all the details here. Again, it takes a little while for this to download. It is a full handbook talking to you about parts of speech. It addresses bear with us, just trying to open it. It talks about good sentence structure, talks about usage, it talks about sentence formats and verb tenses. Again, it takes a little while for this to come up. Here you go. Here's the handbook. And again, as I said, it talks about what you need to know, word choice. We talked earlier about diction. And what's nice is if you look at this, and you, for instance, you'll see the cursor appears here. And if I click on that one, it takes you to that part of the handbook. So about correct usage, how to use certain words, when to use accept as opposed to accept, when to use effect or effect. Okay, that one's come up again. And so you can have help there in case you're unclear what you need to do. It also has other details. It has examples. It has about pronoun choices, how they are to be used. You can look at the details to help you understand as you're working. Talk about wordiness, preciseness, the idea about choosing exact words and being very careful about it. Talk about outlining, how to develop that. Talk about jargon and slang and euphemisms. The idea about euphemisms, the idea about cliches, words that we really don't need. The idea about using slang expressions, colloquial slang expressions, as it says here, is usually not permissible in academic writing, and you're working with academic formal writing. So we'll make sure that we're trying to omit those from scholarly writing. That includes such aspects as contractions that you want to avoid there. And talk about punctuation. I'm going to move back up to the front here to the handbook. And it talks about the sentence basics. And again, if you just click on it, it talks about the parts of speech, what nouns are, how to use pronouns, that is what kind of words fit as pronouns, how to use those, and when to use those. It has a nice little chart. So when to use I, when to use me, when to use it, when to use they. Possessive pronouns, how those can be used, and the different ones there. So it has a nice little layout for you in that particular one. I have for you another handbook as well. Let me get this one closed off. Again, there's the if you want to download the whole handbook, you can click it and get rid of it. So you do that, and then I do have another handbook for you. It's called the Big Blue Handbook. Try and get this to call up. The Blue Book of Grammar. And again, it takes you to, and it looks like that. And if you click on this one, it opens in a new window, takes you to the website. There it is. And what it does, it just goes into details. You have your grammar rules you can click on. It has punctuation rules for you to click on. Capitalization rules to click on. For instance, if you're not sure when to use a semicolon, click on that part. It takes you right to it. And it indicates what to do and how to use those. It just goes into the different rules about semicolon use. And then you can also take a little quiz if you want to, where you just go through and just check your understanding of what a semicolon is. Again, back here, if you want to know about pronouns, what a pronoun is, and then it just goes into basic rules about pronouns, how they should be utilized. Again, very useful, just very succinct. So it gives you a handbook to utilize. Subject-verb agreement, for instance, talks to you about what that is. A very basic rule, a singular subject will take a singular verb. Sort of a very basic rule, a singular subject typically will not have an S. The verb then will. So if the S is on the subject, it's not on the verb. If it's not on the subject, it is on the verb when you're writing present tense. So here we have bouquet. That's the subject. That's a prepositional phrase. And subjects are never in prepositional phrases. So the bouquet lends. So no S. So the verb has the S. There are other rules that you look at, how they are to be used. And again, very straightforward. They give you examples, how you can utilize those. And it just goes through here with a series of these. So this is a useful tool for you. And I hope that will benefit you in case you have questions about grammar and something that you can utilize. We are not using an actual textbook. I do have for you a textbook here. If you want to look at this one where it talks about Cheryl Ball and Andrew Lowe, they have produced a book for you about writing and what good writing is, what bad writing is, and just offer some comments that you may find useful as you're trying to work on your own writing. They're not necessarily topics we're going to be utilizing throughout the semester. We will find a couple of these useful. We're going to generate something about some of the topics here that they offer. Some of the points that I had in the PowerPoint, such as only geniuses can be writers, and Faulkner says no, it doesn't. It's not just talent; it's hard work at it. And so we're going to talk about those details. It just gives you some comments about writing and some of the preconceived ideas that we may have and what we want to look at. And so this is again a useful book that I thought you might find helpful. And so that way we're going to be generating our topics. I'll be talking in another video, hopefully soon, about what those topics are. In case you do not understand, I mentioned earlier about MLA. I have a couple of videos available for you about MLA, where they go over what it involves, what it detail. Again, this one just goes over it. It's a YouTube video that you just click and watch. And then likewise, this is another one where it talks a little bit about MLA, and I'm just going to click and show you. Hopefully we get the call up. There it comes, eventually. You can click on the link and it will open, take you to YouTube eventually. And you can watch this, and again, it's about 6 minutes in which you just go
how
through.
You can format your essay following the MLA guidelines, 8th edition.
And that's what this does. It simply goes through and says, okay, if you're going to write an essay, this is how it should look. This is the format that you need to follow when you get ready to type up your essay and get ready to submit it. And it just goes into the details there. He just walks you through Word, how to go through. Hopefully you all have your Word available for you. And he just walks you through it and shows you what's involved there.
Let's talk about how you can format your...
And that's what he tries to do. The previous essay actually talks about the reasoning of how you find this, what you do, why you're doing this, what these changes are. And so, again, these are just useful for you. I hope that you'll find that beneficial. Again, handout that we're going to grammar handbooks, the details there on the writing process. Eventually, we're going to get into how to use the library resources, which are now available for you. Simply click here, and it takes you to the library page. Eventually, you'll call it up. And research databases we're going to find useful are right here. And you simply type in a subject that we're going to talk about, what is it that you're looking for, and you can hit the search button. For instance, if I were to type in about the topic that's currently part of it, the idea about the federal shutdown, and we click on it. Since I'm already logged in, this is what you're going to wind up seeing. You're going to be asked to log in using your same ID that you do for your nope, had the wrong thing here. You just need your ID here, and then you log in, and it'll take you to the library page. At this time, you can see it'll take you to that one, and here we go. And these are articles about the federal workers in limbo. And you can change this to relevance, or you can change to the newest. And so you'll see this one is from 122. So that would be an article that came out today. This one was published yesterday in the business, part of the Time International. You can see these are just different details. What's happening, how they're being used, just articles. This is U.S. economy is flying blind with a sputtering engine, it says. This is from the Wall Street Journal online from the 18th. And so you can just do it that way. Or you can look for full text only. And so you want to make sure that everyone you're looking at is going to be an actual full article, not just a short little commentary. And so we have these. This is from the 18th about the State Department calling employees back. And so you have different details here that you can look at. So all these are potential for you where you can go to the library resources and, again, just search in different areas. Digital resources, typing in here, whatever it is that you look at. Again, it'll ask you to log in, and then you just use your same login you use for Canvas, same one you use for your emails, and you just simply go from there, and it'll take you to those details. So hopefully this will be beneficial for you. So that is, hopefully that this has helped you understand more about what writing is, what our point is going to be. Our focus throughout the semester is to focus on writing, developing your composition skills, developing you as better writers. So when we reach the end of the semester, which It's very quick when we get to basically the very first week of May and we're through. That by that time you have developed your skills as riders, you feel more confident about what you're going to be doing then. I'm going to close this off now. I hope everything is understood for you, and I hope that we're understanding what we need to do. All right. Any questions? If you have anything, just send me an email, and we'll work from there. Thank you.